Update 6.6 is our midpoint for the year, and we'll be going over the 5 new refines available today. With your precious Divine Dew, you can grab new upgrades for Fallen Berkut, Picnic Flora, Ranulf, Velouria, and Naesala. Your 3 have 3 beast banners close together for their introduction to the game, so that's why we've had so many beast units up in recent months. We'll take a look at everyone's new skills and discuss general playstyles with some build ideas. First up is Fallen Berkut with his Kriemhild lance. It got some buffs to its ult effect. If foe initiates combat and unit is within 3 spaces of any ally, unit can counterattack regardless of foe's range, and foe cannot make a follow-up attack. But after combat, if unit did attack, deal 20 damage to the nearest ally. So Fallen Berkut's whole gimmick was distant counter plus fallout prevention at the cost of hurting his teammates. Well, this now has a 3 space range up from 2, and the fallout prevention also works against melee attackers now. That's great. However, this also means the 20 damage to allies will proc after any foe attacks Berkut. Before it was solely against ranged threats, but Kriemhild only gave Berkut benefits against ranged units. Now, for the refine, if foe initiates combat or if the foe has more than 75% HP, inflict -5 attack and defense on them, and Berkut makes a guaranteed follow-up attack. Well, very simple refine, but that's not too bad considering this is a distant counter weapon. For one, Berkut is very slow, so not only does this free him from quick riposte, but it actually gives him a player phase. He had no player phase benefits beforehand, so this is a nice upgrade, and he'll join that slow cav club with built-in follow-up attacks like Do So. Generally speaking, this would have been a decent weapon, but it is that 20 damage to allies that really makes Fallen Berkut kinda tough to use casually. 20 damage is a lot, and someone has to take the hit with the possibility of Berkut hurting multiple units. You can use it to set up things like Desperation or certain effects like on the new Ascended Florina, but you do need to plan for that with your team and your positioning. Now, in terms of playstyles, Fallen Berkut can now have a mixed phase presence. His base kit was Warding Stance 4, however single tier 4 stance skills have kinda just been power creeped by the dual stances. I would trade 2 resistance for +6 attack by running Mirror Stance 3. With the tier 3 dual stance, you get Guard, which is still good for Berkut in case units get past his follow-up attack. Unfortunately, if they have no Guard, then you just have to tank it out with stats. Low attack and defense was and still is a good choice, and the Sacred slot is now open for a stat booster instead of quick repose. For C skills, I think attack and defense menace is an option because menace skills can give units player phase presence with their debuffing zone. Basically, if someone gets too close, Berkut now has his free follow-up attack and debuffs to get some damage done. Next up, mixed phase set is basically Fallen Gustav's build. Catch 4 with Near Trace are becoming staple cavalry skills for fast and slow units alike. Catch 4 gives you a lot of stats for either phase with no positioning requirements, while Near Trace gives some debuffs with the all-powerful Kanto. For Berkut, he could use Kanto to reposition for the enemy phase, since if he gets attacked, an ally will take that 20 damage. Additionally, Attack Smoke 4 provides some more enemy phase power with field buffs and debuffs, and the follow-up denial status will stack with Kriemhild. Generally, this is redundant, but 2 follow-up preventions will stop faster units who use free follow-up skills like Ephraim for example. Now of course, many player phase units have no follow-up in their kit, and in that case, it will disable any number of follow-up denying effects. You can't really stop that. Last, for some other skills, you could run Bond 4 or Unity, but these limit Berkut's offensive moves with their positioning requirements. Flow Guard could be used for initiations, but I think you would need special cooldown skills to truly be threatening here. Berkut only has Heavy Blade, and he's not stacking a super crazy amount of attack buffs without some help. Personally, I still think slow tanky calves lack interesting skills. They have no damage reduction and very little cooldown options. Their lower BST doesn't help when I could just use an infantry distant counter user with access to steady breath. Berkut's other downfall is the team recoil damage. Again, it's not just ideal unless you have units who want to get hurt. The new on guard status does stop the pain, but unless you use Medeas, who knows how common this effect is going to become. You could just use any other distant counter unit and not worry about it. Overall, Fallen Berkut is certainly better than where he was, but unless you have heavily invested in him, is it really enough for all the trouble Kriemhild can cause to non-prepared teams? Next up we have our seasonal pick, Picnic Flora. She's a red armored dagger unit, still the only one in the entire game. If you know Picnic Felicia's refined from last month, her sister got a very similar deal. The main difference is that Flora is slow, while Felicia was speedy. Now for her dagger, Saehrimnir, however you pronounce that, it basically got the exact same buff to its base effect as Felicia's axe. This dagger is effective against beast units. It grants a flat +3 attack, and at start of combat, if Flora has more res than the foe, she inflicts attack, speed, and defense debuffs equal to 80% of the difference between res stats. This res check only includes visible stats and has a max of -8, which means you need to win by 10 or more res for the max debuff. Additionally, if Flora has more than 25% HP, she gets +4 to all stats during combat. Again, same effect as her sister. The speed debuff and in-combat buff may seem awkward for a 22 speed unit, but Flora can make use of it. Now for the refine, it's also similar to Felicia's, but the conditions are different. If Flora is within 3 spaces of an ally, she gets +4 to all stats and the following effects based on another res check. If she has 1 or more res, she gets 30% damage reduction for 1 hit, and if she wins by 7 or more res, she prevents a follow-up attack. So, Felicia neutralized follow-up skills because she's fast enough to outspeed naturally, but Flora here prevents a follow-up attack since she is super slow. She gets +8 to all stats with potentially up to -8 speed debuffs, and this can help Flora outspeed slower units who cancel out her follow-up denial. Just like Legendary Myrrh, speed may not be the focus for Flora, but it is useful here. Flora actually hits 30 speed, and if you max debuffs, or if you max out the debuffs, then that's like 38 speed. Now, like with Picnic Felicia and Selkie, Flora has 2 different res checks. The debuffs depend on a res check at start of combat. Meanwhile, the damage reduction and fallout prevention res check includes in-combat skills. I would say this one is more important, as preventing a follow-up attack is very strong. I think they put this higher res check on Flora because she doesn't need to build for speed like her sister. Flora can just focus on attack, defense, and res only, while Felicia does need to have speed in mind too. Like any at start of combat check, any source of flat res is going to help Flora. That means merges, summoner support, mythic or legendary blessings, and of course dragon flowers. For playstyles, I want to include Picnic Flora's original base kit and game plan. She was another player phase armor unit with Bold Fighter and Armored March. With high attack, extra cooldown, and a free follow-up attack, back then it was pretty tough to stop these type of units. Of course, nowadays almost every armor unit has shifted to save skills, but Flora's Refine does fit with the Bold Fighter build if you want. 8 extra attack and easier way to get the 8 or -8 debuff only helps Bold Fighter out if you want to double tap someone. If you really hate base units, you can also proc Ruptured Skies bonus damage in 2 shots. Now, Flora also came with an Aether Raids defense skill. This one is actually useful since it can give up to +10 attack and res if you keep your structures intact. Do not underestimate this skill, especially if Bold Fighter is in play. Additionally, all the speed boosts from this refine can get Flora a natural double against slower wary fighter users. Now, like her sister, Flora can definitely run save skills. She's suited to far save for sure, and you probably want a res save skill to help with the second res check. Add your quicker post beast skill of choice and stack more attack, defense, and res. For Flora, I don't think you need a flat res booster like Forge's Defense and Res 3 if you heavily invested in her. If you're confident enough, then you can grab a stronger aid skill like Brazen Stance 3 or Distant Defense 4. While the debuffs are strong, I think the in-combat res check is more important to win for damage reduction and fallout prevention. Now, what about the new Stillwater 4 aid skill? +7 attack and res, but -5 defense. Flora kinda wants that defense, unlike Lilina, but an extra +7 attack is really tempting as a trade-off. I think it's a fair option. For other armor skills, Special Fighter is fine since Flora doesn't have accelerated specials and she can't run Steady Breath, plus it gives card. Slick Fighter is also good since I believe disabling stat debuffs is becoming very strong on your tanks. Brave Hector can attest to that. Last up, if you want to run a player phase Bold Fighter build, if you have Armor March or Armored Boots on another unit, Defensive Res Menace or Attack and Res Menace can be slotted in. It can give Flora a 12 res advantage to use, but you can also do this with just res buffers and debuffers from your other allies. Overall, Picnic Flora got a great refine, mostly mirroring her sister. The flat res check will be easier for those with higher emergence and investment, but Flora does have a base 38 res to begin with. I never really cared for Flora during Fades, but she's been a surprise favorite of mine in Fae. I would definitely be grabbing her refine for myself. Another one of my favorite characters is Ranulf, and I mean, how can you not like this guy? I think it's fair to say Ranulf got kinda done dirty on release, but this refine sure as heck is trying to make up for that. Originally, Covert Cat Fang was basically what is now Joint Drive Attack and Joint Drive Defense combined, but weaker. It actually keeps that effect, but Ranulf isn't focusing on support no more. He grants +3 defense, and if Ranulf initiates combat or is within 3 spaces of an ally, he gets +4 to all stats. He then gives +4 attack and defense to allies within 3 spaces. Basically, Ranulf extends the range to 3 spaces and he gets speed and res for himself. The refined portion is much more selfish. At start of combat, if unit has more than 25% HP, grants +4 to all stats, neutralize effects that prevent units follow-up attacks, and deal true damage per hit equal to the number of allies within 3 spaces times 5, max of +15 damage, and this excludes AoE specials. Oh boy, not a bad refine for Ranulf at all. He can now get +8 to all stats, which he really needs, and with his speed he can bypass brave fighter effects. To boost his damage further, Ranulf gets extra true damage per hit if he's near his allies. You're gonna need 3 allies within 3 spaces for 15 true damage. On top of all of this, the Cavalry Beast transformation bonus lets Ranulf inflict -4 attack and defense on the foe, and it prevents their follow-up attack when he initiates. Basically, Ranulf is much more equipped to fight and take advantage of his Cavalry Beast bonus. He did not focus on support, but he does provide a nice attack and defense aura, which doesn't hurt at all. Since beast units cannot run flow beast skills, getting offensive no follow-up is huge. Combined with the follow-up prevention, it's almost like full no follow-up. As for the true damage portion, if Ranulf doubles, that's possibly 30 damage alone from that. The only issue is that you can't just full sprint ahead of your team with his 3 movement. You have to be a bit more tactical to get the extra damage. All in all though, if you wanted Ranulf to fight more, this refine is what you want. In terms of playstyles, I think Ranulf is now ready for battle. He has some fun skills to abuse like attack and speed catch 4, speed and defense near trace for Kanto, and he can definitely appreciate speed smoke 4 to get dodge. Ideally, Ranulf wants to transform for even more damage, and outspeeding is ideal to abuse more true damage procs. Now, there are many other skill options for Ranulf. I would focus on attack and speed since Ranulf has decent amounts of defense. His low res is helped by this refine, but I wouldn't expect him to be tanking super strong mages. Surge Sparrow, Time Speed Solo, or Blade Session are all fine skills or stat boosters. One thing Ranulf lacks is going to be cooldown reduction, and while he can make heavy blade work, you really need to stack a lot of attack buffs. As for B skills, low speed and defense is the best for damage potential. Desperation and Windsweep both combo with offensive no follow-up for nasty initiations though. Windsweep into Speed Smoke 4 could be fun if you want it to be annoying. Last, in the C slot, Ranulf can run other smoke debuffs like Pulse Smoke, or he can run buffs like Rouse Attack and Speed. Menace skills are once again great options, and they stack with Ranulf's debuffs. Now, if you like supporting allies with Ranulf, you can still do that. For example, maybe stick with his Rally Assist, and you can use Ruse B skills for debuffs. You can add another Joint Drive C skill to stack with, and if you stay back with the team, Ranulf could easily access his 15 true damage. Maybe not the best, but this might be worth trying with something like a distant counter build. Overall, Ranulf isn't going to be taking over the game, but he definitely got a lot of help if you want to actually fight with him. When the Cavalry Beasts want to initiate, you do need to stay in range of allies within 3 spaces to truly power up Ranulf. If you compare him with Harmonic Catria and her Triangle Attack buff and her Warp buff, then you could definitely do some silly stuff with his brave attacks. Our next beast unit is Velouria, a colorless infantry beast. Velouria is an interesting unit because her Wolfpup Fang requires a support ally, but on turn 1 it gives Velouria and that support partner -2 cooldown immediately. It still does that, allowing granting +3 speed, but Velouria will now get an extra +5 attack and speed during combat if she initiates or is within 2 spaces of any ally. This is a great since Velouria has decent attack and speed to start with. Now, as an infantry beast, Velouria's refine will give her the new buff, which only infantry beasts got. They now deal 7 damage on special trigger, which is down from 10, but they also get tempo, aka no guard and no special charge. Infantry beasts are all about special spam, so tempo is perfect for them, and Velouria already grants instant cooldown to boot. Now, unlike Ranulf, Velouria's refine does play into her support role a bit more. At start of turn, if unit is within 3 spaces of support partner, grant +6 attack and speed and the low status to Velouria and that partner. Additionally, if Velouria is transformed or the foe has more than 75% HP, she gets another +5 attack and speed during combat. Alrighty, so Velouria gets an easy +10 attack and speed for herself, but she also tacks on a +6 attack and speed field buff, the low status to neutralize enemy field buffs, and of course the -2 cooldown on turn 1. Very fun, it plays into support and personal combat. Just keep in mind, support mechanics do not work in the hands of the AI. Velouria is definitely one of those units that can serve many purposes depending on your support partner and your team. Because she also benefits from all these effects, she can be a decent unit in her own right. The new tempo effect is the cherry on top, but Velouria does need to be transformed for that. Now, one popular playstyle that takes advantage of Wolfpup Fang is using Velouria as part of a Gale Force chain. She can give herself and her support partner -2 cooldown on Gale Force. With Time's Pulse, this can set her up with a 2 cooldown Gale Force immediately, and with Tempo, any Flashing Blade proc will give Velouria that bonus action. However, you can also just now use Quicken Pulse for a 1 cooldown Gale Force. If Velouria attacks with Tempo, she always gets that 1 charge, and only something like Pulse Smoke can stop her after combat. The issue with this setup is that it does not do well if you need a second Gale Force proc. For that purpose, Flashing Blade is better for 2 cooldown and no special charge isn't as prevalent just yet. For more damage output, you can do Flashing Blade 4 in the A slot than something like Blade Session. This is fine since usually Velouria is Wings of Mercying in after her team makes the first move. For more general combat, Velouria can put together 3 strong B skills by taking No Follow-Up 3. Her Refined grants Tempo, and also the Omni Low status. These are great effects for any unit to have, and it's a fun choice considering Velouria cannot run dodge skills to use with her extra speed. You can do the Speed Smoke 4 trick, but there's a lot of customization options here. For example, Time's Pulse is still fantastic for 3 cooldown on turn 1. You can instantly charge Bonfire or Luna or Prime Aether to work with something like Special Spiral and Steady Breath. You can even get a quick Ignis with Steady Breath and something like Distant Counter. Always annoying to face, and again, Tempo makes everything more consistent. Another Tempo combo is with Surge Sparrow. Just in general, if you want to run Flashing Blade with higher cooldown specials, the max % HP healing from Surge can be a ton of fun for sustain. If you want something budget as a skill to try, Wrath 3 could be worth a go. You could get plus 17 extra damage on special triggers. As for stat boosters, Velouria could go for more attack and speed if you want. She does sort of lack a bonus defense and res, so you could play a bit more defensive. For example, Distant Stance, Steady Breath, maybe a Joint Drive C skill. Not listed here, but you could double down on support buffs. Maybe you use Rally Defense and Res to fully buff her support partner, and you could run a Ruse B skill to also add guard to the mix of effects she has. In general, Velouria is just a very neat unit who can open up many different strategies. She can provide instant cooldown to other class types who may need it, like Flyers and Cows. You could run her with Legendary Hector's Osteus Pulse, or even stack an Infantry Pulse skill on her for more cooldown. There's a lot to experiment with this unit. Last up is Naesala. He's actually the easiest to get unit here, being a heroic grow option, and he's a flying blue beast unit. I saved him for last because while he may not be doing anything super fancy, this refine is hilariously good for a free unit. First off, Raven King Beak has been reworked. It grants plus 3 speed, but now if unit initiates combat or the foe has more than 75% HP, grants plus 5 attack and speed, and deals true damage equal to 15% of Naesala's speed stat. It used to be true damage based on a speed comparison, but Naesala now only cares about his own speed stat, and the value is now uncapped. For example, if you can hit 60 speed, that is plus 9 damage per hit. More damage, more speed, sounds good to me. For the refined portion, if unit is transformed or the foe has more than 75% HP, grants another plus 5 attack and speed, and the following effects based on the value of unit's speed minus the foe's speed. If Naesala wins a speed check by 1 or more, he gets plus 1 special charge per his own attacks. If he wins by 6 or more, he gets offensive no follow-up. Similar mechanic to Flora's Refine, but Naesala is all about speed. He starts with 38 base speed, but with this Refine, he can hit 51 already. Now, offensive no follow-up is extremely important because again, beast units cannot use flow B skills. Getting heavy blade type cooldown reduction and partial follow-up is so good, so we need to stack as much speed as possible. As a bonus, that's going to add to Naesala's true damage. One thing to know about the Raven King is his somewhat low defense. He can put down the damage, but Naesala isn't getting any defensive help from the Refine, and we don't have guard to protect from instant special counterattacks. He's potent, but you can't just throw him at everything. Now, like Ranulf, Naesala is another excellent user of the Catch 4 and Near Trace Kanto combo. Lots of stats. Kanto is just too darn good, especially on a 3 movement flyer. If you want Speed Smoke 4, it works amazingly due to Catch activating off a debuff, and Dodge is appreciated with Naesala's lower defensive focus. Now, while Kanto is present, Naesala should expect to get hit here. Unless you can pick off some easy targets that have healing, don't expect him to sustain too many fights. We can actually remedy this with 2 other skills. First off, Dive Bomb. It has an 80% HP condition on the user and the foe, which complies with both of Raven King Beak's effects. Basically, if you can Dive Bomb, the Refine is going to be active. Now in the case Naesala does get hurt, Surge Sparrow can heal him back up. Remember, he also gets +1 special cooldown on his attacks, which means you can activate 2 cooldown specials with Dive Bomb. It may be wonky if you expect to get healed, so this might be better with 3 or 4 cooldown specials. Surge Sparrow would also be fine with Near Trace, but it is player phase only. While Speed Smoke can be fun, the Rain Sea skills are the consistent bread and butter for flyers. Again, Naesala needs to outspeed by 6 or more, so a -4 speed debuff constantly is only going to help out. Last, also like Ranulf, you can combo Partial Fallout with Desperation or Windsweep. Both are going to help Naesala not die, and Desperation is just a cheaper version of Dive Bomb. Dive Bomb is best if you can do a 1-2 punch with a special proc. Desperation may be better for something like Gale Force for longer fights. As usual, Sacred Seals should be attacking speed focus, attacking speed solo, Swift Sparrow, Blade Session, all are great. Not needing Heavy Blade is really good for Naesala since his attack is lower anyway, and that just gives us another stat booster to use. Overall, Naesala got a very solid refine. Reminder, this is a free unit, and it almost matches what Ranulf got, who's a 5-star only unit. Naesala may not require your orbs, but he sure as heck isn't being left behind by his fellow Laguz Royals. That'll be it for this update 6.6 refines video. Pretty good batch all around, and the 3 Beast certainly got some fun tools to use if you can get some of the newer skills. Picnic Flora is for sure going to be another far saver, and while Berkut is definitely more useful than before, I just don't think he's got enough to justify the annoying 20 damage he inflicts on teammates. If you can make use of it beneficially though, then more power to you. Let me know your thoughts and build ideas for these 5 units. I'll be back soon to talk about the upcoming banner in more depth. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.